The only daughter of Count of Geneva gazed curiously at the landscape outside the window. In her 15 years, she had never left the walls of her family castle, and now her moment had finally arrived. The carriages were headed to Paris, where she was to become the wife of King Philip II Augustus of France. She would be the third in line, but who really cared? The king's first wife had passed away, and he had rejected the second, an unattractive Danish woman. At least, that's what people said. So why shouldn't the lovely Marguerite of Geneva wear the crown? Little did the young countess know that she would never reach the capital, and her fate was to be something entirely different. William I of Geneva maintained a grand court. He had fashionable minstrels and trained knights who could compete in tournaments for the amusement of the public. In short, he was a ruler who kept up with the times. For children were raised in conditions no less than royal. Aymon, Marguerite, Guillaume, and Amadeus. The youngest was being prepared for ordination as a priest, while the only daughter was to be married off to a worthy man. The charming countess had nothing to fear about remaining a spinster. Having reached the marriageable age of 12, which was quite young in the 12th century, she received proposals for marriage once or twice a month. Her father, however, guarded his treasure jealously. The local nobility could not compete with the count in terms of lineage, and they certainly couldn't boast of wealth. It was best to wait and choose wisely. There was one suitor whose position might have pleased William of Geneva, Count Thomas of Savoy, Prince of Piedmont. Young, handsome, wealthy, and a distant relative of the count, he was a protégé of Boniface of Montferrat, the future king of Thessalonica. One problem, though: Thomas's family and Marguerite's did not get along well. There were no outright conflicts, but each side was always eager to cause trouble for the other. So when Count Thomas of Savoy asked for Marguerite's hand in marriage, he was met with laughter. Absolutely not. Moreover, a new prospect loomed on the horizon: marrying the young beauty to the French king. Yes, there were some complications with his wives, and it seemed that Rome was not granting Philip Augustus a divorce from the drab Danish woman. Rumors in Geneva suggested the girl couldn't captivate the king, but Paris had sent suitors. This meant they were interested in the match. Thus, Marguerite set off for the capital of France. The journey was long, requiring frequent stops to change horses and find places to spend the night. On the second day of travel, in Roussillon, when the girl and her entourage paused their journey to seek lodging at a merchant's house, armed men surrounded the building. Their leader turned out to be none other than Thomas of Savoy. Count Thomas of Savoy informed the Count of Geneva that the King of France was officially considered married. He had verified this, making a union with Marguerite impossible. The girl would be left in a precarious position, leading to exile and disgrace. Therefore, he, Count Thomas of Savoy, was prepared to take the bride to ensure she would have a respectable life. He would marry her the very same day. There weren't enough guards to put up any resistance. Marguerite was placed in another carriage provided by Thomas, along with her belongings, and they set off. The wedding, as promised, took place later that evening. Marguerite of Geneva became Countess of Savoy. The girl's father experienced incredible stress. He had to write a letter of apology to the King of France. This took a toll on William of Geneva, and he passed away 2 months later. Marguerite and Thomas's marriage was officially recognized a year later, which is why the dates differ. The story of their union was passed down through generations until the troubadour Raimbaud de Vaqueras wrote a beautiful poem about it. From that point on, the love story of Countess Marguerite of Geneva and Thomas of Savoy was sung across Europe. Why a love story? Because the girl and her captor had come to a wonderful understanding. Thomas was so in love with his bride that he doted on her endlessly. They had 19 children together. Their descendants became the ancestors of renowned dynasties, such as the Valois and the Bourbons. One of the sons of the House of Savoy even became the Archbishop of Canterbury. Marguerite passed away in the mid-13th century in a small castle in Pierre-Châtel, reaching the age of 72. She lived to see 2 of her granddaughters achieve what she could not. They became queens of France and England. Interestingly, Count Thomas was right. The woman who took Marguerite's place beside King Philip II Augustus was indeed not recognized. She faced exile and disgrace. But that is a story for another time. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, give a like, and thank you for your comments.